Hello everyone, and welcome to the second edition of the God Sees Me Vlogary. I've decided to call this episode God Sees Me Vlogary, episode number 2, Montreal. To give you some background information, I am a Seventh-day Adventist, and I go to a Seventh-day Adventist university in Canada. So every year, the Seventh-day Adventist Church of Canada, the superintendents of education, come to the college where I go to school, and they interview the graduating seniors so that they can find Adventist teachers to work in their Adventist school system. We have first priority for the jobs there. What happened is I purposefully signed up to meet with the superintendents of education for every province except for Quebec. But in every interview, I told them that I was considering doing mission work next year. The superintendent for education from Quebec, where I didn't want to go because I don't speak French, specifically looked me up by name and asked for an interview. I told him I was thinking of doing mission work next year. And he looked at me and he said, "What if God calls you to Montreal?" Well, of course, I had to say, if I feel called to Montreal, I'll go. He left, and I sort of thought, okay, I'll forget about this. This will be good. And I couldn't get over the uneasy feeling that I felt that I hadn't emailed him back. So I contacted the school and see what I needed to do to apply for the position that he had been telling me about. And he said, just send in your letters of reference, send in your resume, please apply. And so I did. I applied and I left it at that. Several weeks later, I had a friend who was asking me via Facebook what I was doing with my life these days. And I mentioned that I had applied for several jobs, but one of the jobs I was looking at was Montreal. And as soon as I said that, she messaged me back and said, if you go to Montreal, I have a roommate for you. And I found out that she's Adventist, she's nice, and she lives near the school where they've offered me this job. A few days later, I get a response from Montreal, and they offered me the position. So I began to pray about it. And I prayed that if this was where God wanted me, that He would make it abundantly clear. My mother asked me if I would visit the school. So I told my mother that before I would sign the contract, I would at least visit the school. I called them to see what their policy was on flying me to check out their school, since they had offered me a job and I had never been there. They told me that because they are on such a tight budget and because the superintendent of education had already met me, they would not pay for my ticket. But if I could get there, they would pay for my accommodations and my food. I'm broke. I started to pray about that too. And I told the Lord that if He really wanted me there, that He would have to pay for my ticket. Next thing you know, I get another email from the superintendent of education, and he says, I have wonderful news for you. We have decided to make an exception. We've decided to pay for your plane ticket to Montreal. Would you like me to book it myself, or would you like to book it, and I will mail you a check? Now, this is a direct answer to prayer. And the third thing that's super amazing is I'm an American. Last summer, I broke my life trying to get a work visa so that I could be a nanny as my summer job. And it took several months to do the paperwork for my medical and for my visa. And because I didn't know that I needed a medical at the beginning of the summer, it was halfway through halfway through June before I was able to receive my work visa. But the good news is my work visa, as I found out right after finding out that I had a plane ticket, my work visa doesn't expire until November 25th. To boot, it says exactly on the visa that it is an appropriate work visa for primary or secondary education, which is another blessing. God knew that if He was going to ask me to be in Montreal, He had to help me to get my work visa the summer before. So I know that God is leading me to Montreal, and I know it because circumstances in my life have been simply providential, even though they've been outside of my own personal control. I think that that is a sign that God sees me and He has a plan for me. And so thank you for watching, and I would again invite you to subscribe because I plan on posting more of these videos. Have a nice day. Bye.